Welcome to the Freddie Kissoon Show. Mike, all I'm saying, next time, bring the evidence. Well, all you do, you come here, all the corruption.
How come
just here. Next time you come, bring yourself. I am not talking about that. I'm talking about you in 2024, December, saying there's corruption. Bring it.
Let me ask you this question. I would like to ask the AG to propose legislation for what we call small claims court. There are lots of poor people, for an example you just gave, that they have issues with others and sometimes with large firms, but the lawyer fee is greater than the fee you're claiming.
It is their
right.
A right, the right that someone has. All our rights exist in context.
What is the context of a second medical opinion?
Because you disrespected the process.
No.
Jesus, this is common sense, man.
Any situation which you seem to do, you just dealing with Afro-Guyanaese issues. If one, you can't bring and pull the leaders of the African community together, you're failing. And if two, you can't put forward a future, a blueprint, and a plan for African Guyanese, you're failing as well.
Hi there, pleasant Friday evening to you. This is an important Friday edition of the Freddie Kissoon Show. We have dedicated the past week or this week to looking at election issues, looking at the entire campaign. This is our last program for the election analysis. We have a program on Monday. Obviously, it's a call-in program in which you can call in. It's live, 8:30 to 9:30. Obviously, if we run a week of looking at the election, why would we not have a program on Monday evening where we can hear your calls about what happened? So I will repeat it. Although there's election on Monday and there would be people monitoring all over Guyana after the close of poll, we will have a show at 8:30 to 9:30. I will be doing a live show of the election from 12 to 4 in the studio of Ignite Television. And that's a program that will be going on live. We'll be talking to guests, what have you. Leonard Craig may be doubtful for Monday evening. Craig is assigned to Region 5 where he was born, and that's his area of election activism for the People's Progressive Party. So I'm not sure if he can make 8:30 to 9:30, but he say he will try. So once again, wherever you are, based in different time zone, good evening, good morning, good afternoon, good night. This is the final election program. After September the 1st, we'll be looking at victories and losses, but in terms of what is going on and who is doing what, and the weaknesses and the pros and cons of the election week, it ends with this program this evening. We only have 2 more days for the election, Saturday and Sunday. So let me welcome Leonard Craig, and you can see from your screen what he's wearing. Redder than red. So let me start with something that's on my mind, and then we'll go over to Leonard Craig. A majority of Guyanese were not born when a term was played out in the late 50s during the election campaign. It's called Apanjat, Hindu word meaning vote your own race, Apanjat. And so in the 50s, there was this talk about Apanjat at the election meeting, vote for your own race. Don't take my word for it. Go and listen to the PNC's election meetings. Robin Simon said in Haslington, vote for your own people. It was a racial sermon. Don't take my word for it. Go on the Facebook page of Ronald Daniels, PNC lawyer, worked with Nigel Youth Firm, that is a PNC candidate. He said clearly, there's no subtlety to it, or no indirect reference. You have to vote for your own. Vote for African Guyanese. And then Henry Jeffrey got unpleasant and said they don't want to tell you about multiracial. So nothing is wrong with voting for your own race. You must vote for your own race. That is called apanjat. And the PNC has resorted graphically, brazenly, barefacedly to apanjat. Vote for your own. Apanjat means vote for your own. And it became a very, very infamous or famous term in the 50s, right up into the 60s. And people would say, you see, at a meeting, he said apanjat, and people would write letters saying, you must denounce apanjat. Look what that man said at that meeting about apanjat. Well, the PNC has openly endorsed apanjat. Don't take my word for it. Ronald Daniels has his Facebook thing there. You could go on YouTube, Facebook, and get what Robin Simon and Henry Jeffrey have said. But there is a stupidity, an irony and a contradiction to apanjat. Hear this and reason it out before Craig comes in. If you are a political party running for parliament and the presidency in your country, and you telling people to vote apanjat, meaning vote for African parties, vote for African candidates, why don't you have a prime ministerial African candidate? But the PNC doesn't have an African Guyanese candidate for prime minister. The AFC doesn't have an African prime ministerial candidate. So, how do you explain that? Don't you see that's a stupidity, an irony and a contradiction? They put a non-African because they say we want non-African people's votes. We want multiracial votes. So don't let's go with a black man as a prime ministerial candidate. That's not going to look good. That's not going to attract votes. So they put an Aboriginal lady named Joretta Fernandez. The AFC, the Niger Youth, into the race thing since 3-4 years ago, and fastened with Burke and David Hines. He didn't put an African Guyanese. He didn't put Raphael Chotman. He didn't put Chotman. He put a non-African. So tell me, please, viewers, if that makes sense. Vote for your own. Vote for African people. Vote for African politicians. Well, when you said that, Aubrey Norton is the presidential candidate, and an African lawyer, Dexter Todd, should have been the prime ministerial candidate for the PNC. The AFC should have put Nigel Hughes and put Raphael Chotman or somebody else. Explain to me, just call me, or explain to me how these two parties could be saying, vote for your own, vote clearly for your own race. They're saying that. So what is Joretta Fernandez and what is Laura George from the AFC and Joretta Fernandez doing there? How do you reconcile that contradiction? It cannot be reconciled. If you are saying X meat is bad for your health, X meat is bad for your health, you cannot, you're bound by strong moral laws not to sell that meat in your shop because it's bad for people's health. There are Hindu business people who have retail stores that do not sell beef because they say we don't believe in killing the cow. So Muslim people do not have pork at their weddings. If you have to vote for African politicians because that is what a black person should do, then you're voting for an Amerindian prime minister if you vote for the PNC. And if you vote for the AFC, you're not voting for a black prime minister. I'll take a sip of water, Craig, and see if you can explain that enigma for me.
Freddie, as destructive as the concept is, it has some plausibility. And let me be the devil's advocate for a while. I am not subscribing to it, but as an analyst, I'm explaining why it is beneficial to the PNC in this moment.
Yeah, I know. I wrote about that today.
In this moment. The PNC was caught napping at the wheel. They were caught sleeping. They spent too much time in fighting off some of the loyal soldiers and all of that.
They were hemorrhaging bad.
Right. And we know traditionally, we got to speak plainly, that the two major parties draw their core support from the two major races. And in theory, and then I'm talking academics here now, for a group organization to perpetuate its existence, there must be something called a critical mass. Group theory find that when you lose a critical mass, you can lose the very essence of the organization. For example, like WPA. WPA in its height, when Walter Rodney was alive, was attracting people daily. And then somewhere along the line, it lose most of its membership, and then WPA just became a shell, just a couple of people ranting. And to save itself, the PNC, to save itself from that, it must do what it did in 2023. One would have thought, having gone through that experience in 2023,
the local government
election, that the PNC would have attempted to recover. And once you have gone through an entire year cycle without serious attempt to recover, you're sliding further downwards. And because the PNC did not recover from that, they have to go back to the 2023. They were hoping that Mohamed would step in and provide some salvation for them. And the salvation they were hoping for was that, he would go to all these East Indian communities, and East Indians are going to flock him in droves and all of that. And they're going to hold a line with the Afro-Guyanese vote, and then you're going to end up with a minority government. That is what they were hoping for. That strategy has already fallen flat on its face. When it is too late now, they're trying what they should have done from before, attack Mohamed.
All the time now.
Right? One out of two things. They would have had to beat their chest loud and join with Mohamed, or they had to attack him from before, but not right, or not treat him with kid's glove, like, he's part of the opposition, we're not gonna touch him, and all of that. And all of those miscalculations would have to lead to the Apanjat you're talking about. All of the miscalculation would have to lead back there, because what the PNC is trying to do is preserve its critical mass. In that, let's hold on to a core support that we're guaranteed, I think, around 28, 29, 30% of the votes cast. That if they hold on to a core support should account for that, around that. And they probably have already made the calculation that, this is for our survival.
It's not going to be near 30.
Right? So
30%, not 36.
30% of the 30% of the voting would be assured with this kind of message. Because, for example, if we go back to 2023, Freddie, The PNC lost badly in all of its strongholds. In New Amsterdam, they lost, I think, outrightly lost 4 seats that were safe. I am talking about core Afro-Guyanese support thing. When you go in there, it's unmistakable.
PPP got a seat in Mocha, huh?
Who voted and coming to Mocha just now. It's unmistakable. The racial composition of people who voted in New Amsterdam, the area, because New Amsterdam is section, I think it's in 9 constituencies. I think 9. No, don't hold me to that. But you know how constituencies work. You can know the area. You can know the area. South Georgetown. If South Georgetown votes overwhelmingly for PPP, there is no doubt as to what's the racial composition of the people.
Usual crossover.
Right? It's
crossover.
Similar in New Amsterdam. When you go and you look at the 4 seats that the PPP won, there is no doubt as to the racial composition of who voted. And when the elections were finished, the PNC celebrated with a motorcade in New Amsterdam, saying that we won. Yes, you won, but look how much fall off you had. For the very first time, PPP was able to win a seat in Mocha. You come right in Georgetown, the PPP moved from, I think it's 2 seats to about 9. And you go throughout all the Afro-Guyanese districts. And PPP won seats in Linden on the town council. And these guys, you know, so it is clear that from 2023 coming down, they just decided that we're going to consolidate. And the natural way to consolidate would have to be that. And I've always said on this program that the PNC has not made any effort whatsoever since Granger. Well, since 2015. The core support, the multiracial support came through the AFC. And the PNC, I can tell you stories which I'm not going to repeat here, about how the PNC behaved during the 2015 election. They're showing clearly they weren't interested in multiracial voting. They did it again in 2020. And we can see it continuing. And that, the only result that could be is a continued falling off. People are gonna, because most people don't want that message, people are gonna fall off. And what the PNC will be left with is just a hardcore thing. And I don't know if that is what Aubrey Norton wants to define the PNC as. But after this election, the PNC support base gotta ask their leadership some hard questions after this election.
This election, I wrote an article for a book called Eldorado, the 5th edition of the book. And I said this was going to be, I wrote that thing last year. And I said this was going to be an uninteresting election. And then dialectical forces just took over Guyana. And it's going to be a very, very interesting election for one reason. There are people out there that believe that Win is going to take seats from the PNC
I'm a
that
believer.
may make the PNC not the opposition. That may make Win the, I mean, that
you mean
is
the leading opposition.
Right.
No, I don't believe that.
Right, I don't believe that myself. I think the PNC is going to get more seats than Win. But the indentation is going to be shocking. And the thing about it, the researcher don't have to look hard for who voted where. GCOM has that statistical outlay. So you could know in Lenora who won in Lenora, which part. So if in Denamstel it's 10 for the PPP, 11 for PNC, 12 for Win, then you know Win took PNC's vote, and you could know how Win did in Denamstel. So when the election is over, the PNC cannot be that stupid not to look, have a retreat at Congress Place and look at how Leonard voted, then Amstel voted, Haslington voted. They have to know. And what is going to be shocking, particularly in Georgetown, is that those all Boystown folks and Castello housing scheme, those votes are going to win. Not to they didn't vote for the PPP. The PPP gets stifled off, but it's PNC supporters saying, let me give Win a chance. And my column today in today's Chronicle Friday column is I'm saying that, picking up from what James Bond said in our interview Wednesday. James Bond said it, and Craig had said it when we were doing our dialogue in Under My Bottom House, that Norton can still survive for some time.
Yeah.
But I said in my column today, if that wind devastation is large, Norton may not survive very too long. People everywhere, PNC leaders, got go to say, but Aubrey, man, you don't even come near to defeating the PPP. And look what you lose seats to. You lose seats to win Aubrey. Look what Azzurdin Mohamed did to you. Aubrey, where was your staying power? Do you have any more staying power? That is what is going to happen to Aubrey Norton. So in my column today, I said, based on what Win does to the PNC, Norton's hold on PNC leadership may be more short-lived than we think.
I am hoping that there is some amount of astuteness left in him, in that Aubrey now needs to take the part of Corbyn. Corbyn became highly unpopular, and Corbyn had to exit, but before he exited,
he did some serious dialectical.
Yes, he brought in,
reflection,
Granger and formed the APNU and literally retooled the PNC, and it worked.
Yeah, they won the
because it eventually ended up in government. But then, in retooling and taking the part of Corbyn, I hope they learn a lot of lessons, a lot of mistakes that Granger made. And but that is the PNC's business. The reason why we're talking about it is because, though I do not support the PNC and never have, I believe, as we all do, that whichever government is in power, a strong opposition is needed. That's a
theoretical law.
And I don't think anybody wants to sit here and just wish the PNC away, right? Wish the PNC away, maybe many people want, but replace it with what? And what is the consequences?
But opposition has to keep government on its toes. Remember, don't matter how much a government has good women and good people, if there's no one saying, man, you can't do that, you see the thing you do, stop it. If there's no one telling them that thing looks bad, they're going to do it 2, 3, 4 times.
And apart from that, the opposition drags the government into answering certain questions, right? Because when you're in opposition, you have the, or when you have a strong lead in opposition, you have access to some information that ordinary people on the road do not have. And some of these things could fly over people's heads, whereas you in Parliament and so on, you can, ask certain questions on behalf of the people, and that's beneficial. Even the government, I doubt whether Irfan Ali wants to run a government that there is no opposition. I doubt whether. I would be surprised if Irfan Ali wants that, right?
Bishop Engine said he wants opposition. It keeps the government on its toes. Said it here.
For me, when you're in government, there is a certain joy about shutting up the opposition's mouth. If when they come with a wild theory or something, and then you rise above that and prove that, hey, look, this policy that we put out is solid. There is a certain joy about that. And if you have a government that is striving to do that on a daily basis, it could only benefit the people, right? And so that is the situation the PNC finds itself in. And my commentary here now, or a few minutes ago, is not as a PPP activist only, but as a general political analyst in Guyana. I think the PNC got to get their act together. They got to seriously change their leadership. Some leaders in the PNC got to be magnanimous and realize that they've been there, they've had their run. It didn't have any traction, and they should let new blood come through, and they stay in an advisory capacity.
But they've already, and Norton have already, when he did say at a press conference, they're going to our constituencies, he did say that. They have now acknowledged that another opposition party, an Indian man with a Muslim name, right, with a very inglorious past, is now threatening a historic institution. There is no threat to the PPP as one of the many historic institutions in this country. Or whether you like it or not, Forbes Bonham name, right, is indelibly PNC is indelibly linked to Guyana, just like Chedi Jagon, the PPP. Those are part of Guyana. Good? Nobody can erase.
You can't, right.
Nobody can. And this glorious institution, one of the enduring institutions of Guyana, is facing an ignominious assault from a source. I mean, when I said at the GCC, Georgetown Cricket Club, when we were doing one of these shows, that it's to leave Irfan Ali to vote for Mohamed, I say that person is mentally imbalanced. When you look at Ali, his charisma, his vision, his niceness, his modesty, and the years he has brought Guyana into the future. I mean, if you got somebody at matching that, you say, boy, June or King could match your fan, you know. Man, June or King, the man was a big surgeon around the world, and he opened a whole hospital, and he's an alright man. You see, that you're comparing Irfan, but there's nothing to compare Irfan Ali with Azzurdin Mohamed. You know, there are things that I've never said this before. Correct. Never said this before. There are things that you cannot say about Azzurdin Mohamed, because he's going to be so annoyed that he may want to get at you, either physically or through the courts. But there's certain incidents I know about Azzurdin Mohamed that I still think maybe we should have publicized those things and asked if he was eligible to run. I know about an incident at in which a whole set of deers, the animal deer, what happened to them. There's some that have been publicly known. The AR-15 rifle that was used over the West Coast of shooting practice, and a guy got killed. His name is called with the Facundus murder, of all people that said it in the editorial Starbuck News. They didn't say about a Main Street incident. They said his name has been associated. Right. Then the thing about the little boy being shot, nobody ever talked about a whole set of deers. Land Canaan is not where that thing leads to the Conservancy. There was an incident there, I don't want to get it. But there's so much that should have disqualified Azzurdin Mohamed from running.
That it should have disqualified him in our esteem, but not in the eyes of the law. Don't have that disqualification.
Unless he was, even if he is charged and he's found guilty.
No, as long as he is not incarcerated.
You know, I know he couldn't. there are some things going on. There are some things going on, Leonard. I would have liked Azzurdin Father Shell to just say he's never been to the Venezuelan embassy. Mr. Jagdeo said he and his son been there. Mr. Jagdeo later said the father, not the son. And then Mr. Mohamed gave an interview with the Starbuck News. Mr. Mohamed in that interview never said, I was not at the Venezuelan embassy, never was there, nobody can prove it. The vice president at his press conference on Thursday said, he's waiting for Sheikh Mohammed to say, I was never at the Venezuelan embassy. I think that is kind of worrying. Why, if he was there, why would he be there?
Remember, a minister does not summon an ambassador willy-nilly. And when a foreign minister of a country summon a foreign ambassador, that's a serious matter. The ambassador,
something happened.
Yeah, the ambassador can't say no. Right? You in my country, and I have a concern, and I summon you to appear. You can't say no. You have to think that, and it's not at your convenience. If the foreign minister say meet me here, except you're out the jurisdiction. But once you're in the jurisdiction and the foreign minister say meet me here at 8 o'clock, you don't have a choice in the matter. That's how foreign relations work. And then when you appear before the foreign minister says, please explain this, because we have information from the US say this man is colluding with Maduro, and I'm presenting this, well, I don't want to say charge, but this accusation to you, and then I'm asking you, please explain this man's visit to your embassy. And the ambassador acquiesced, and the ambassador said, and he said, the man was here, but it was innocent. He came to inquire about a visa. Now, if the foreign minister was quote unquote telling lies on the ambassador,
yeah, the ambassador
would have issued a statement on behalf of his government.
I never said that at the meeting.
Either I wasn't at the meeting, or at the meeting, this is a misrepresentation of what occurred.
The Pavlovian response in diplomacy all over the world is the word misrepresentation.
Yeah.
They
or mischaracterization.
They always use that word.
Yeah.
He misrepresented what took place at the meeting. And I hope, as we're coming down to the elections, this program has a moral duty to appeal to Guyanese to forget about that man. That man is not right for politics, much less for Guyana. You don't know the things we know about Azzurdin Mohamed. When this election started, there are things I did not know, and people that I trust, people that I respect, describe in detail things that they knew what happened. About the incident, about the slaughter of deers by the Conservancy, shooting animals for joy. You know, I want to believe that maybe Azzurdin is not all there. I'm putting it quite diplomatically, but what has happened to our country? I don't have a problem with Nigel Hughes, Amanza. I would not vote for them. I don't think people should vote for them. But they're normal people who have played their role in politics. But I don't know why anyone would want to vote for Azzurdin Mohamed. I have given my whole life to this country, and I'm telling to you, don't do that.
Freddie, they cling to Azzurdin.
Well, it may have sociological explanation.
Right.
But it's psychologically weird.
Yeah. It gives a heavy feeling on your psyche that people are actually following.
Here why I think Trump won, and here why I think Azzurdin is going to lose. Trump was facing a woman, a black opposition, that white people didn't want to vote for after Obama. Trump was facing a candidate that had nothing going for her. And so people say her and the white liberals didn't, although they were liberals, didn't want a black woman. In the case of Guyana, you have Irfan Ali. Then you have the long-standing PNC leader, Abby Norton. Miss Walton Desert cuts a good figure. Nigel Hughes cuts a good figure. There is nothing going for Azzurdin Mohamed. Leonard Craig, it's an esoteric moment of mental torture.
Don't underrate the power of celebrity status, you know.
I don't know what celebrity he is.
I think Azzurdin has transformed over the last 2.5 years as Guyana's leading celebrity figure. With much more recognition than Lola Dahl, much more recognition than any of our singers, Adrian Dutchin, Tamika Marshall, and all of that. Azzurdin's name traveled further. And one of the reasons for that
is the giving away the goodies,
is philanthropy,
the goodies,
yes. People know that when Azzurdin come around, I could approach him
and you're gonna get
and
something.
I can
Take hold of 25,000.
right, because based on what we now know, that there was a heavy inflow of illegal money that Azzurdin himself probably didn't know what to do. Right? He couldn't take all to the bank because of the strong money laundering laws. And he probably didn't have a vault big enough. So he got to keep an outflow going. He got to keep an avenue. And there is nothing that enlarges your celebrity status than that. And don't discount the crowd pleasing value of that. And then you have this Lamborghini, and every time he jumps into the Lamborghini, he doesn't go and drive in Section K, Camberville. Nobody ain't gonna look out the window at Azzurdin.
That's right.
He doesn't go
He goes to low-income area.
He goes to the low-income
so everybody
area.
can say, what car is that?
Yes, so that everybody who dream of associating with a celebrity would want to run out and you understand. But if he would have gone to one of those upper class neighborhoods, gone to Prattville,
Their house are AC, they don't look at
nobody gonna look out the window. Even if they see the Lamborghini or they hear this noise,
they will think it's some
and they look out,
some drug man.
they look out, they see the Lamborghini, and they going back watching the TV. Low income people gonna run out the house.
Back at the smartphone.
Yeah. Low income people gonna run out the house, they're gonna come to the roadside, they're gonna flock you. And that is what Azzurdin did over and over and over, and ingratiated himself in low income neighborhoods. And so don't underestimate the social value of that.
But what is forbidden and should be forbidden in people's mind is not that customs or the Bank of Guyana say, look, this man is the Americans with their sophisticated statistical machinery say, you know how much gold this guy didn't declare at your airport?
And some of them easy to figure out, because if you file documents saying, I am putting 2,000 ounces of gold on this ship, and it's leaving the shores of Guyana with the paper saying I put 2,000 ounces, the box is bad, because customs these days, what you do is average how much gold can fit in this box. And I can declare this box as having 1 pound, and the custom will just check off 52 boxes, 52 pounds, it goes on the thing. But then the same ship leaves Guyana, in stop anywhere, and then ends up at Port New York. And then the gold comes off the ship. You declare 1,000 ounces in Guyana, and it comes off the ship as 10 because you can't declare the wrong thing over there. It comes out as 100,000 instead of 10,000 ounces. Or instead of 1,000 ounces, it comes out as 10. And then you have these two documents. So you know that azzurdin did not account for 9,000. And that is one way in which the US was able to, to determine.
You just picked it up from their side of the transaction and told the US, told the Guyana government, what are you doing with this here? You know how much you're losing? I think that whole OFAC sanction is like an episodic act of generosity to the Guyanese people that you got a man there and you know how much you're losing.
But people would wonder why Guyana losing money is affecting America. And here was the foreign relation thing in this. Now, if 1,000 ounces of gold is coming from Guyana, right? Maduro is under sanctions, and Maduro country is larger than Guyana and probably got far more gold than Guyana, and he cannot sell it anywhere. Where is his gold going to? And the Americans have traced that the gold is coming across the border, being mixed to appear like Guyana gold. And because you can't declare this deluge of gold, how, if all our years we have been finding 10,000 ounces totally in the country, you can't come and declare you carrying out 11,000. Somebody is going to know. It's going to look odd. So you got to declare in the normal range and then put the rest on the ship somehow. Your bright people do what? Put the rest on the ship somehow. But when you reach in America, and so America knows or have traced that some of this gold is from Venezuela, and they didn't want to Maduro to circumvent the sanctions, right? So the azzurdin sanction is also a denomination from the Maduro sanction. It's one and the same. So when the American government and the American senators and so on and congressmen are writing that azzurdin is a Maduro puppet, it is not by chance. Yes, there was Guyana government hired a lobby firm to look into its interests where foreign relation and dealing with Venezuela is considered. Even though they are looking into that interest, these are some of the things that they themselves are finding. And in some cases, busy politicians, you got to send them a reminder note saying, you are in a foreign relations committee. Remember, these things are occurring. And, you know, and being reminded or being provided the information. These guys don't just go and blurt it out, even if they were hearing it for the first time. Senators and Congress people in America are not like in Guyana. Our politicians are more or less part-time. You do your normal work.
Yeah, they have staff, they have a research
they have research team, they have lawyers, they have
their own office.
Their own office and fully staffed office, right? And these people will say, look, this information came into us. We want you to check with the State Department, check with the FBI, make sure this is right. And once you confirm, release a tweet on my behalf. Some of these people don't sit down and tweet themselves. They have staff doing it. And then they would say, verify this information and release a tweet on my behalf. And people need to understand that the government, again, can't tell a senator, tweet this, right? And so that is part of the, you know, the whole configuration.
Well, one of the things people should reflect on and should examine in their mind is that aspect of why the US like us so much that they turn and say, hey, listen, President Ali, listen, Minister Singh, you know how much money you are losing from one, you are a businessman. The United States don't have no time with that. It has an American angle.
Right.
And what we need to tell people is that United States, France, Italy, the UK will make people think that they're so interested in protecting Jamaica, Trinidad, Nigeria. They compete with us. Prime Minister Sam Hines said on this Freddie Kissoon show 3 years ago, the reason why he think our catfish cannot enter the United States is because they have a catfish and that name, they don't want the confusion with their name. It's not that these people are generous to us. These people would compete with their one time Antigua had to take the US to court because people doing online gambling and like it somehow Antigua benefits from some kind of right, and they wanted to stop that. A little Antigua, 100,000 people. And what people have to understand now, and the next 50 years, the next 100 years, these big countries you see would compete with us. Compete with us for perks in the international system. They care about if it's a small country. Those people are ruthless.
Let me give you a direct example in international trade that is happening right now. There is a trade organization called the WTO, World Trade Organization.
Which we place
what they do is make all the rules for international trade, and countries that are signatory to the WTO would have to abide by it. And if they don't, then they can receive certain sanctions or certain, international reprimand and so on. And a WTO rule says that package being moved from poorer countries, and they have a list.
I read that.
To richer countries like first world countries, if they're under a certain value, they must not face tariff.
Trump put a tariff.
And Trump say, I don't care. A lot of countries are gonna complain to the WTO, but Trump don't care. And I think the value is
the post office stopped parcels going to the US.
And the post office now has to stop small parcels from going to the US. So if you had a little thing with a small value that used to go tariff free into the US, Trump said no, every little thing you gotta pay for now, right? And so the routes that is used to take the package, the government of Guyana is not sure how it will work, and so they have to stop the package for a while to clarify that with the US, and then it might resume later, but for now it has to stop. And this feeds right into your point that these countries are out here to compete with the small country. It is not necessarily generosity.
I think Craig, sometimes I'm sad about my life in Guyana. I love my country. I'm closely knit to my family. I mean, if I didn't have my wife. But I'm sad in that I belong to an epoch. I belonged, past tense, to a zeitgeist in which my country understood what the United States and Europe would do to them and have done to them, that these people would squeeze us after colonialism. They had to let us go, but they're still trying to control us. And it is so sad that I think this generation doesn't understand that. I mean, I think you were co-hosting this program when a young man like Kane Jabur said, why they ain't got crime and rape and them thing in the West. These people have systems in place. And I said, why your name India? CARICOM? He said, India? There's where people in India. But it's just, look at that mentality. You would think a young politician, they would understand how the West would pulverize Guyana. And that the CIA got no accountability. The American Congress, the American Senate, the American President know what the CIA doing, and it's funded by when who is accountable for what the Western government is doing in Gaza. Right since Gaza started, military shipment to Israel by Western countries have not stopped. Even passing through a place like Turkey, and Ken Jabot could say that. I was so disgusted in that program. Honestly, Craig, because of where I came from, I wanted to say, please leave. But our people have to understand. Our people have to understand that we are where we are with only one airport or two airport or three airport. Craig, do you know we do not have a bridge linking Suriname to Guyana? And our ferry, the CARICOM ferry, is still to come off the ground. And all the prime ministers of CARICOM say expense is a problem. And those Western people could spend billions.
And let me tell you something, because I lived in Europe for 2 years. And I lived in Germany. And in Germany, once you have a visa to Germany or a residence permit to live in Germany, you can travel to any one of the European countries, and one of the things that they have in abundance is transportation to go. You can jump in a train in Germany and go to France, to Czechoslovakia. In some countries, if they don't have a direct train, you can get off, take a bus, take a plane. In fact, in Germany, they had something called the Schöne Wochenende ticket. Means happy weekend. You buy one ticket, 4 people can travel for free, but you could travel anywhere in the EU, but you got complete your journey in a weekend. So you can do country hopping. You can move from here to here, and 4 people travel on one regular ticket. So if you were to buy a regular ticket during the week, it will cost, let's say, €100. Weekend, 4 people could travel on €100. And then they also have websites that if I want to travel, I go and see who else traveling in the same places I want to go and link up with people and so on. Whereas in the Caribbean, we are putting so many years Guyanese went through sitting on a bench in Barbados, sitting on a bench in Trinidad, and all of that. And these things, these differences were highlighted by the same foreign powers, and we need not look further than our own Guyana, where Forbes Burnham was able to continue in government even after rigging election after election after election, because the foreign powers wanted him there. The foreign powers saw Guyana sliding down into poverty, and could have provided, but they didn't, because it's not our interest they have at heart.
Right, but you know what disgusted me with Ken Jabot, and what disgusts me with the present generation, and I hope people like you, James Bond, the young intellectuals coming up, would take us back to that zeitgeist of the 70s.
Zeitgeist is German, by the way. Yeah.
Good. Maybe I should say epoch or era. How we cannot jump on a ferry, put plantains and pumpkins on a ferry, and take it to Trinidad. Up to now we have not that. And so they decide they can get a ferry for passengers and transporting goods. And every prime minister say, when we look at this thing, and Italy and Switzerland just built a cable car, right? Billions of euros. Billions of euros. They keep us down.
The value of cultural exchange is not factored into the expense. So the expense is prohibitive to them because they do not put a value, even if it's just for cultural exchange. But the amount of the explosion in travel alone will overcome that value. And I don't think, many of our Caribbean leaders,
I hope China now takes over the world as a general superpower and help us to build that bridge with Suriname, Guyana, and give us a CARICOM ferry. I think you need a non-imperialist superpower And I see
You
China.
think,
I
you
see
think China is non-imperialist?
No, and not solely not with the West, not in the same power with the West, not with those people who colonize us and those people who are still colonizing us. And I said to you in many private discussions, you should read Maurice Odell's autobiography. He still remains the most accomplished international economist from Guyana. The length of time he worked at high levels in the UN and CARICOM and interface with the governments of the world. And when that man said, they give us independence, but they're still colonizing us. But the operator said 5 minutes left, 5 minutes. So we brought in that, just to remind you that United States knows something is going on with Azzurdin Mohamed that affects United States. And so they say, we're going to sanction this man. And I believe something is going to happen with Azzurdin Mohamed and the US side after the elections.
Yeah, because the US looked deeply into his operations. When the government wanted to know the true price of the Lamborghini, they just call up the US, and the US, the Department of the OFAC,
no way we bought
already had the evidence. Already had the evidence. So when you go about your everyday business and you believe that the thing US, I don't know if you remember the Edward Snowden issue, right? He started working for the NSA, the agency that does spying and so on, national security. And he said he couldn't stomach the amount of intrusiveness that agency had in people's affairs.
They were catching like a throw a net in. They were catching,
and they had AI.
Catching
what we consider to be AI now, these people had it a long time ago.
They were catching billions of cell
certain
phone
words and so on. They could hear what you're saying and all of that.
So what they did with these phone calls at Snowden, they just put it on the screen, and they would see somebody, an American mention Yasser Arafat or Hamas, and they know the number.
The AI would catch that and then they after catching that word, then they can now go through the history of all your calls and do that. And then under Obama, I think somebody took the NSA to court, and the court forced Obama to adjust the law to say NSA cannot spy on an American citizen without certain force obtaining certain orders of the court and certain procedure and so on. But they can still do that to any foreigner that they believe is threatening the interests of the US. Any foreigner. And don't underrate the degree to which and the capacity of this organization.
But I know there were some changes in Obama, but it's whether the agencies right, still operate with that legal restriction.
No,
that's the CIA.
I think the NSA, with respect to phone calls specifically, cannot continue that without certain legal fiat.
They ain't got that restriction
but
in the CIA.
The CIA, right.
When Kenjibu talk about systems in place for accountability, those people overthrow governments and senators and them thing don't know.
So for example, if the CIA wants to be intrusive on an American, they just tie the American to a foreigner and say we were investigating this foreigner and because of that, So all you gotta do in America, make one international call to Freddie Kissoon. The Americans could say, the CIA could say, hey, we're looking into Freddie Kissoon, so we can look into this for the American. It's you know, they have ways of going around, and don't underestimate the capacity of these people. So when the Americans say we sanction somebody, it's not by fluke.
No, it's not no generosity. Something is going on.
And whatever is going on has to affect America, and not Guyana.
And I think the research is still going on. I think whatever they want a foolproof case. So that when Mohamed takes the most expensive lawyers, and he will take the most expensive lawyers, with the money he got, when he take the most expensive lawyers, the Treasury Department want to make sure that they got their stuff. They got their stuff right there. And just checking my time here, the operator said our time has come. Yes, our time has come. This is our last program in the week that Leonard, Craig and I looked at the election campaign, looked at the issues, looked at the barefacedness, weaknesses, pretensions of some of the opposition political parties. We wish you luck.
Before you
Yes,
close
yeah.
off, Freddie, it would be remiss of me if I do not remind voters that I support wholly the efforts to re-elect President Ali. And those of you who have not yet made up your mind, I am asking you to take a second look at the capacity of Irfan Ali and not based on your race. If that is your decision, I'd ask you to reconsider it and see you on the other side of the election.
Well,
Have
for
a
me,
good weekend and come out early and vote.
well, for me, you know, I've been doing a daily column. That's 363 columns a year, and everyone knows. I think Mohamed Irfan Ali is a different human being, that different leader that Guyana hasn't seen before. And that man, morally, philosophically, politically, deserves to be re-elected. I unapologetic about the things I say. I am voting for Irfan Ali. I would urge you to do that too, and I don't care what interpretation you put on this program. Starbucks News, Skype Joe News, they don't care what they say. Why should I care what you say? I shouldn't say who you should vote for. Yes, I am saying who you should vote for. Vote for Irfan Ali. Have a very pleasant weekend. Don't forget, we have a live call-in program on Monday on election night. Catch you later. Have a very pleasant weekend and go out and vote. Vote for Irfan Ali. Bye-bye.